Welcome back to Disturbed Reality. Today's video features a cartel in which I've never covered on this channel before. They go by the name of Cartel del Noreste, that translates in English to the Northeast Cartel. Due to researching the narco world, I have been aware of Cartel del Noreste for quite some time, though I didn't know much about them until now. The cartel was founded less than 10 years ago in 2014. They were a product of the downfall of Los Zetas and the infighting that plagued the Zetas. The arrest and capture of leader Miguel Trevino Morales signalled the end of the Zetas. As a result, infighting broke out and several splinter groups and new cartels were formed, one of which being Cartel del Noreste. Despite Cartel del Noreste being its own thing, the influence of the Zetas is still apparent. The leader of Cartel del Noreste is the nephew of Miguel Trevino Morales, who was one of the most brutal cartel leaders in Mexican history. The leader goes by the nickname El Trevino, though his real name is Juan Gerardo Trevino Morales. Primarily, Cartel del Noreste's main source of income comes from drug trafficking. Due to relationships that were carried over from the Zetas days, Cartel del Noreste have very good contacts in Colombia. In fact, they are allies with Clan del Golfo, a criminal faction in Colombia, and as a result, this gives Cartel del Noreste a consistent supply of cocaine and other drugs, and once those drugs arrive in Mexico, the cartel can then distribute these drugs to America and beyond. They do have really good links and contacts in the criminal underworld, and unfortunately, this gives Cartel del Noreste the potential to grow into something much bigger and much more deadly. Aside from drug trafficking, Cartel del Noreste also participates in other criminal activities such as kidnapping, extortion, vehicle theft, human trafficking, and money laundering. In territories in which they occupy, they also control the prostitution rings, so they have their fingers in a lot of pies. Primarily, Cartel del Noreste's main base of operation lies within the municipality of Nuevo Laredo in the state of Tamaulipas, though Cartel del Noreste are also known to operate in many other states such as Nuevo León, Zacatecas, Veracruz, and Tabasco. They are also said to have operational presence in the United States, Guatemala, Honduras, and Colombia. As mentioned previously, Cartel del Noreste were founded during the mid-2010s, and this was due to various members or high-up members of the Zetas being arrested, being captured. There was an internal struggle for power, and as a result, the Zetas turned into two separate factions, Cartel del Noreste and Los Zetas de la Vieja Escalera, which translates into the Old School Zetas. The two new factions quickly became involved in a dispute for control of Tamaulipas, but as the years progressed, Cartel del Noreste grew in numbers and influence, whereas the Old School Zetas pretty much faded into obscurity. Much like the Zetas, Cartel del Noreste are no strangers to unspeakable violence. Most of the violence is carried out by the armed wing of Cartel del Noreste. The armed wing go by the name of Tropa del Infierno, which translates in English as the Troops of Hell. They are the cartel's best fighters and most heavily armed. They have access to weapons such as AR-15s, Barrett 50 cal sniper rifles, and various different explosives. Over the years, Cartel del Noreste, and in particular their armed wing, have been battling with numerous cartels, including the Gulf Cartel, the Sinaloa Cartel, the Old School Zetas, and more recently, CJNG. Interestingly, the structure of Cartel del Noreste completely changed the scheme of the Mexican cartels by eliminating the concept of a plaza boss. Instead, they just have one sole leader, Juan Gerardo Trevino Morales. All of the orders come straight from the top. Essentially, he enforces his orders by appointing commanders for small areas, be it a sector of a city or a colony. Also, similar to the Zetas, the militaristic aspect is clear. They rank their members based on efficiency, discipline, and effectiveness. The lowest level members of Cartel del Noreste are known as Falcons or Pointers. Essentially, they carry out the menial cartel tasks, such as spying on rival cartels or even authorities. They may also be involved in low-level street dealing and low-level theft. Typically, the guys at the lower level of Cartel del Noreste are not paid well. They usually get in and around 5,000 pesos per fortnight. That is less than £200 per fortnight, which is next to nothing considering the risk. The next level up in the cartel, you have groups who are referred to as the Stakes. Essentially, these are similar to a squad in the Mexican army. They are members who operate in the city day and night in convoys of about 2 trucks or more. In general, there are around 12 people per operation, similar to a platoon, and they carry out operations in the cities. They receive orders from the commanders. For example, they may have to commit an execution, something along those lines. The Stakes are well armed and carry high-grade weaponry. The pay structure for the Stakes is between 15,000 and 60,000 pesos a fortnight. Your pay is essentially dependent on rank and performance, but even 60,000 pesos at the high end, that equates to roughly just under $3,000 per fortnight. It's not really much considering the risk and what you have to get involved in. Outside of being the cartel leader, the highest rank or highest position you can attain would be being a commander. Commanders will work in cities controlled by the organisation. They are essentially in charge of enforcing orders from the boss and keeping the gangs that work for the cartel under control. Due to the nature of the job, these commanders are paid very well. However, they are constantly changing. This is due to the fact that they are targets of rival cartels and also targets of the authorities. Essentially, they have a big target on their back. So the position of being a commander carries a lot of reward, but it also carries a lot of risk. So that is just a brief summary of how Cartel del Noreste are structured. But nevertheless, let's get into the video in question. The video depicts the brutal execution of 3 suspected CJNG members by Cartel del Noreste, more precisely by Tropa del Infierno. Although there's not too much backstory behind this video, the reason for these executions allegedly was because the guys involved were moving money through Nuevo Laredo, which Cartel del Noreste didn't take too kindly to. The video opens up and 3 men are kneeling and sitting on the ground with their hands tied up. All of the men are shirtless. They appear to be in an old abandoned building, and the captives are surrounded by at least 10 members of Tropa del Infierno. One striking thing about these guys is how militaristic they look. They are carrying ridiculously high-grade weaponry. They are suited and booted with camo, combat vests which has the cartel acronym embroidered. They have combat helmets. They are fully suited and booted. The first 20 seconds or so of the video is your standard cartel interrogation scene. One of the captives essentially just explains who he is, and he confirms that he works for CJNG. One of the cartel executioners also put out a death threat to El Mencho, warning him to stop sending gunmen to Tamaulipas or suffer the consequences. After the interrogation segment, the video then cuts forwards to the execution segments, and it is worth noting during this segment the audio for whatever reason becomes very distorted. Nevertheless, they start with the brutal executions, and they start with the guy who was interrogated, the guy to the left of the screen with curly hair. A cartel executioner comes up behind him and starts slashing his throat with a razor-sharp knife. Immediately, blood pours down the man's bare chest to the point where it's almost covering his entire torso. He's then forced to the ground, and it actually looks like he's trying to get back up, but the cartel executioner holds him down and starts slicing the back of his neck with the knife. Bear in mind, this is happening while the other 2 captives watch. At this point, another cartel member walks into the shot and he's carrying an extremely blunt axe. He takes the axe and starts hitting the man who is being beheaded in the torso. He hits him a few times. He also actually hits one of the other captives in the legs a couple of times, and that had to be an instant leg break. Nevertheless, they soon decide that beheading the man with the knife was taking too long, so the executioner with the axe completed the process. The video appears to skip forwards a few seconds, and one of the cartel members is holding the head up to the camera. They then start the execution of the second captive, the one who had his legs hit with the axe. The video then cuts forwards again, and it shows that all 3 men at this point have been executed, and their bodies are laying in a huge puddle of blood. And that's where the video ends. So yeah, all in all, a very gnarly video, and quite frankly, I'm somewhat pleased that the audio for this video was messed up, because I can only imagine the sounds, and I can only imagine the pain that these guys went through, because they were not given quick deaths. They were prolonged, drawn out. It doesn't even bear thinking about what these guys went through, so yeah, another horrible video. I'm not sure what else to say, to be honest. Ultimately, it's far too common, and I'll be keeping my eye on Cartel del Noreste, and in particular Tropa del Infierno, to see what they get up to in the next few months. But yeah, that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you can enjoy this sort of content, as always, thank you guys for the support. Thank you for being understanding during the festive period. I have had other commitments, both, socially and with work, so I found it hard juggling this channel during the last few weeks. But now we're past the festive period, I'll be able to upload more regularly again. So thank you guys very much for being understanding, and more than likely the next couple of videos won't be cartel related. I have gone quite heavy on cartel content in recent weeks, but I do want to keep things fresh. So any ideas, please feel free to comment below, and as always, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.